Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Western Bulldogs podcast, Barclay Street, hashtag Barclay Street, you know the drill. Brought to you by our great friends Mercedes-Benz Vans who've supported us the whole way. Just brings a tear to our eye. Marcus, it brings a tear to my eye to see you, my friend, after a magnificent win against the West Coast Eagles. How are you doing, Skipper?
I'm going well, mate. And like you said, another consistency in the Barclay Street pod paradox of us podding and us winning again. It seems to have come true again. So
it's a mathematical certainty, Marcus. So you need to trust in the numbers that now we're locked in. So none of this, I've got a NFL fantasy draft, or we've just got to do it every week, mate.
This morning, which I went all right too. I went okay. Thanks for asking.
No one cares.
I know you're upset. I know you didn't get invited into any leagues this year. I know that's the basis. You've been left out, and
I just want to make a quick public service announcement for anyone who's in a fantasy draft or an NFL fantasy or any other sort of fantasy draft. We don't care. We don't care. Anyone else, we're not interested.
That's fine. You haters can continue to hate, but people take these things very seriously. I sit on the fence. I don't mind it. It's a good time killer, but sometimes there's more important things. Just need to take priority. There's a lot of work goes into it.
For everyone listening out there, this podcast was scheduled for an hour ago, but we had to put it back because of an NFL fantasy draft. Crazy day.
I reckon there'll be some fans who say, "Yep, it's a sacred time that needs to be."
If you wanted to open it up to a couple of spots to let fans into your little league, that I could have endorsed that, but this is just dull, time killing. Real boring stuff.
All right, now time to move on. Let's go. What's your next question, media bloke?
Well, talk to me about the result from last week. It was a pretty dramatic finish. The old score review, the old arc.
It was.
So take me back to the moment where you're kicking just beyond 50.
Yeah.
Did you hit it sweet? Did you think it had made it? What was going through your head?
I don't reckon I'd crunched it. Like I'd had a shot in the game, in the same game a quarter or two earlier, which was down the other end, which was into a little bit of a breeze. And I sort of didn't hit that one sweet either, but it carried about 50 and ended up getting spoiled back in play. So I sort of, you might see if you watched it back, I sort of deviated a little bit left, which I naturally sort of do, and then most left footers do when they're trying to get that little bit more distance.
Yeah.
So I felt like off the boot, I'd gotten it pretty well, but probably kicked it pretty high, which meant that at some point it had to start making its way back down, and wasn't really sure. When I saw it sort of get halfway, I was like, I don't know if I've really nailed that. This could be pretty close. And clearly they've got some West Coast, some great sort of intercepting defenders, and they were defending the goal line pretty well, which I sort of said to the boys, geez, any danger of maybe a block on the line? I thought that's what most forwards, are supposed to do. Just when the mids kick the goals, just put on a good block. And they didn't like that. But anyway, I gave them the feedback. And so anyway, McGovern obviously got up there and then touched it. But you sort of look at the reaction from the players on the goal line, and immediately Timmy English's his arm sort of just went up like that. And I sort of thought, okay, well, it must have been pretty close to a goal. But at the same time, you don't know what the umpire's decision is, because obviously the umpire makes a decision.
You had no idea about that?
Not until one of the boys sort of ran back up from the goal line saying, we think it's a goal. But you're not sure. Like, I didn't know whether the umpire had called a goal or touched. So obviously it comes back to umpire's decision if it's inconclusive. And there was a sense that maybe it was a goal, but there was also a bit of, hang on, maybe, it might not be as clear as what we thought. So it ended up obviously being a goal. But, I mean, you're a bit sometimes great that it's a goal. I missed out on my chance to really, celebrate it and give it a bit, but it was worth 6 points. And in the end, we probably felt like it was a lot closer than it should have been. We felt like we played the game on our terms a fair bit and just butchered some of our chances and not used the ball really well. So it felt like in the end, the sort of footy gods smiled on us a little bit, albeit a lot of the drama around the ball being, obviously touched or not touched.
That's how athletes are built. You do tend to linger on the things that you'd like to have work a little bit better. Like you say, the Dogs wasted a few opportunities and had so much of the play, but geez, in a game that you had to win, I know the Eagles had a few key players out, but it was to keep the finals flame flickering alive. It was a pretty significant night for the footy club.
It was, and we've come up against teams now probably throughout the whole season that we haven't probably beaten one on top of us. We've had good cracks at it, and we've also had periods where we've just lost momentum and gone down by a couple of goals and not been able to bridge it back. So, like you said, it was a different makeup to probably their best, probably 22 or 24 or whatever the case may be, but felt like we did play the game the way we wanted to, and good for us to win a close one, especially sort of this back end of the year where games are starting to get more and more important and close. It sort of makes you feel like in those intense moments, we're able to sort of stand up and recognise how to win. So some good sort of confidence comes out of that.
How key were the roles of Toby playing a bit of a shutdown mid role and Timmy, big Timmy, getting back to some of his best form? He was huge the other night. Nick Nat out, but he had some moments that were just screaming out,
Yeah,
character.
he did. He did. On the first one, Toby's obviously played a couple of roles, run with roles throughout the course of the season and done a really good job of being a great sort of two-way player. It hasn't been a complete sort of shutdown, but it's been, we need to be really conscious of this opposition player. On the weekend just gone, it was Andrew Gaff, who has had, really good games against us in the past and been a really influential player for West Coast. So you got to recognise that and respect that the opposition are always going to have really strong players. And we just probably felt like we needed to try and cull his influence a little bit. So Toby did an awesome job of trying to shut down his time and space and did a really diligent job. But then also on the way back, managed to find his own ball, put himself in really good spots to help us, drive the ball forward. So an awesome game for Toby. And he's starting to build a really good repertoire of being able to do that. And Timmy, the other one, who's we've all, you probably definitely have when your big men play well and influence the game, it does make you all out there feel that little bit more, safe and comfortable. And he's having a really strong influence around the ground, especially not just with his developing ruck craft, but you just know when he's in the area and his ability to run and jump at the ball, that there's no player that's going to be able to reach his hands in the air. So there was one really impressive moment. It didn't end up perfectly, but he just had to go back with the flight at one point and really crash it back and went back with all his might and courage that he could. He didn't clunk the mark, but just seeing a moment like that from your big man just really makes everyone stand that little bit taller.
Yeah, it sure does. How is the mood of the group up there in the hub? What's happening around the crew?
It's good. Sort of same old sort of things. I guess not much has really changed other than the fact that we're getting closer to the end of the season and obviously, the ladder's starting to work its way out. But we're really obviously right in the hunt. We're not in the 8, but obviously right on the edge. So there's so much still for us to play for. And almost knowing that we've got sort of nothing to lose. So playing on that attitude and belief that, if we're good enough to win, obviously, the next 2 games, then we'll be right in the frame and wanting to. There's a real want for us to get there and hang around and still make more of the season. So I think the feel is really good. Everyone's really sort of empowered to try and get in and make something of the season, make something further.
Are you finding yourself sort of studying the ladder and looking at the fixture and watching other teams a bit more closely, or are you just sort of letting things flow?
I like to watch football probably a little bit anyway, but I won't overdo it. But you probably do. I do know that there's implications of probably most games on the weekend, particularly the ones that involve the teams around where we are. So I guess I've got a watchful eye, which a lot of, people probably think, you can't control it, so therefore don't worry about it. I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but I'm also watching on quite keen to see how it's unfolding. But then also knowing that unless we take care of our business from a football perspective, we need to win the next 2 games to give ourselves the best chance. So none of that sort of really matters unless we take care of our business. So that's probably my sort of attitude to it all.
So we've got the Hawks up next. What's the stage of preparation for them? Have you started looking at the Hawks?
We will
putting a plan
tomorrow.
Together?
Yeah, we will tomorrow. So we've still got our main session to get through. And then obviously we travel as well. So it's a travel game for us across to Adelaide to play Hawthorn, which will be a bit funny, playing an opposition team on sort of neutral territory, I guess, which is a first other than finals.
What's the travel arrangement? Is it just over and back, or how is it all?
So we'll fly over. I forget which team it is, but with another team on Saturday. And stay the night Saturday, play Sunday, and then come back Sunday. So it probably is easy from a moving around perspective as well. Sometimes you fall into a schedule that aligns with another team. We'll fly over Saturday, stay Saturday night, play Sunday, and then come back across. And obviously, you know what Hawthorn are capable of with Alistair sort of Clarkson steering the ship. So we're going to have to be right on our game to cope with the Hawks' best. Come Sunday.
How's the injury list looking? We got any chance of a few coming back, or what's the state
it's been
of play
pretty
there?
good. The last couple of weeks has yearned some pretty good results for us with regard to that. Like Taylor Duray's back now and played a couple of good games in the scratches that have been played. Matty Suckling's been playing for the last few weeks, which has been good and pulling up well. I think Woody's probably close. I don't think he'll probably. I'm not sure yet. We'll probably have to still see retraining tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure he's a test, and whether he gets up or not is probably still unknown. So if he is, great. But if not, we'll probably see him next week, which would be good. And there's probably a couple of other longer term ones that probably aren't right in the frame just yet. But those more mature players, the ones you're obviously looking to probably at this time of year to hopefully get a bit out of.
Yeah, cool. Hey, we're going to take a short break in a moment, but our next guest, there's a bit of a connection with you and Daniel Cross.
Crossy, yeah.
The coveted number 4 Guernsey. We'll have a little spell. We'll have a little spell, and our fan favourite, one of the Bulldogs' all-time favourites, Daniel Cross, will be joining us right up after this little break. Welcome back to the Western Bulldogs podcast, Barclay Street, and it's always we always get a bit excited when we have a guest, particularly when it's an ex-player. When it's a current player, it's a bit because all we have to do is knock on someone's door down the hall of the hub, lest we forget about the hub. But when we get Bulldog royalty, and I mean this is proper Bulldog royalty into the podcast, then we get really excited. Daniel Cross, who is one of the favourites of all the Sons of the West, I've got to say. A lot of love for Crossy in our supporter base and from anyone who played with him and probably against him as well. He's the greatest number 4 we've ever had in the club's history. He played 249 games of league footy, 210 of those with the Bulldogs before he lost his mind there for a little while and played for the Demons. And look, we don't want to hold that against him. No. There's plenty of good in him. Crossy, mate, welcome to Barclay Street. Great to have you here.
It's a huge honour, fellas, and that I was getting a bit emotional there with the welcome, but I don't think I could hold Bont's drinks, to be honest. I think he's already passed me as the best number 4. But no, it's great to be on the show, guys. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Probably should at this point.
We got to clear that up. I don't think that's the case at all, because I think if there's a legacy, exactly. That was exactly you beat me to the punch.
Nigel Callett, Nige.
We're all still chasing. But if there's anyone that has one of the greatest, legacies that I've especially been lucky enough to hear parts of and strands of, it's Crossy. I think from some of the stories I've heard, which we'll touch on a bit later, but I think we both, and I have an enormous amount of respect for you, Crossy, for what you did at the football club. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that.
Hey, Crossy, I was arguing with Marcus earlier on. He wanted to spend the bulk of today's podcast talking about his NFL fantasy draft that he seemed to think was of great interest to the great.
Your cornflakes this morning, mate.
You still hate it,
get over it, mate. He hasn't stopped sucking. He hasn't stopped sucking about it. Get over it. You're not the priority anymore, mate. It's not you. It's not about you.
Crossy, are you in this world of? Are you a sort of US sports mad freak, or are you?
I absolutely love it.
I had a hunch.
Tomorrow, doesn't it, Bont? Starts tomorrow.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I had a hunch.
I know. At one point there, you tried to get into it, didn't you?
I tried.
I think the Houston Texans. I think you.
Yeah.
Tried to get on them, but
the Longhorns.
Didn't by the sounds of it.
No. The Longhorns.
Well, I love the basketball and I like the baseball. I would watch more of the football, except no one in my house will watch it with me, and I need someone to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, no, I've been doing fantasy for the last 5 or 6 years, and it was doing it at the Bulldogs, and then that group disbanded, or the league disbanded. Tommy Williams was running that, and then been doing one at Melbourne. So it's good fun. The draft was last week. I was pretty
You're happy with her, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get a good pick to start?
I was number 2. Pick.
Yep.
So got
Vontae Mack. Did you get Vontae Mack?
Got Joe Montana. I got Ezekiel Elliott with my first pick. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey was pretty much everyone's number 1 pick. So, he was mine. But I don't want to bore you, Bob. So,
you just as much as I love our catcher, you just lost me for a couple of seconds there. I just had a little micro sleep. Hey, Crossy, the other thing that Bont wanted to talk about was how hard hub life is, and the surfing and the golf and the sunshine, and just how arduous their life is. And I said, just before you go down that path, spare a thought for Crossy, who's currently doing a Bachelor of Grade 5 and prep with the remote learning. How are Tyler and Charlie doing on the school front?
Yeah, look, I've been really proud of the kids, mate. They're very resilient little things, and we've had our ups and downs, like all families have. It's been a real roller coaster at times, but Sam and I have made sure that they're getting the work done right and continuing to move forward with their education. So it looks like our little girl, Charlie, she'll be back in the second week of October, and then Tyler's in year 4. So we're not really sure when he's going back, but they've done really well. It's obviously been a really long time for them to be away from their friends. Zoom chats, Cahoots, and all that sort of stuff has been great for the kids, and they have their catch ups in the morning on their school laptops and that, so they can still see each other. But to be honest, they've done great.
Have you been watching much footy since you've been in lockdown?
Yeah, it's hard to escape it, obviously, with the footy frenzies. No, I've definitely been watching as much as you can. Obviously keep a very close eye on the dog scores, and obviously Melbourne, watching those boys each week, so or each game. So it's very tight at the moment around that 6th to 10th spot. So it's going to be a really good finish to the season. I'd be interested to ask Bont how he's been backing up from those short breaks, because even though the quarters are shorter, I'm sure it's pretty intense on the body.
I get a feel that someone like yourself, Crossy, just would have thrived in this sort of environment in terms of with the shorter turnarounds. You obviously, or from what I've heard, I only have seen parts of probably games that you've played. Incredibly good endurance athlete that just you manage to keep your body in incredible sort of shape, and that's something I constantly sort of hear about as you played. It's been okay, but have you thought about that at all? How you might have coped in terms of the short turnarounds? Is it something you would have thrived in?
I would have really enjoyed the challenge of doing it. I think the bonus would have been for me that it would have brought everyone back to my pace and just keep that consistent speed the whole way through. But no, it's definitely something that I would have loved to. If that had happened in my time, I would have enjoyed getting up for each game, and I guess being in that hub. It really does. Even though there's probably 4 or 5 teams at your hotel, is there, Bont?
There's a couple. It's a busy hotel.
Yeah, each club's hub is like us against them. I'm sure. So it would be a really, really tight environment. That I would have really enjoyed. But it's very unique, isn't it? And it seems like the quality of footy is getting better and better as the years gone on. So, obviously players and teams have adapted to it pretty well as the season's moved on.
Crossy, I'm guessing you would have relished the shorter breaks between games where it's just a war of attrition. How would you have gone with the shorter quarters though? Because I'm guessing your ideal quarter length would be anywhere between 40 and 50 minutes. That would be your ideal. Have this big 3.5 hour game where you could just grind someone into the dirt. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know my stat line of how many possessions I had in the first 15 minutes and then in the second 15 minutes. And I could guarantee I would have had double as more in the second, but wouldn't have had as much time to work into quarters and grind your opponent down. But like I said, you'd enjoy the challenge of trying to thrive in whatever's thrown at you. The great thing about team sport is you got different types of athletes in each team. So would have been your go. I would have thought, Bob, the explosive smooth mover.
Oh God, makes me sick.
Well, Marcus, it was a logical segue. Hey, Crossy, your fitness regime and endurance is kind of legendary, and that's a legend that still kind of lives on, certainly at the Bulldogs, and no doubt at Melbourne as well, where it's been your life's passion of physical education and fitness and training habits and all of those things. How is your current fitness level here? Are the current restrictions eating too much into your ability to burn the lungs?
No, mate, I definitely use my 1 hour each day. We're in our house. We set up a gym when we moved in, so try to get in there pretty much most days. The good thing for me is Sam's very much like me. She likes to get in the gym a fair bit, and it's about setting a good example for the kids as well. But no. Yeah, whether it's stupid or not, I'm still actually trying to play up at home in Albury. So when I finished at Melbourne,
So what year did you finish at the D's playing wise?
So 2015 was.
And how many seasons have you played up in Albury?
So I played 16, 17, and 18.
Flags every year.
No, so we went undefeated in 2016. That was a great experience. The next year, pretty much did the same thing, except the game before finals and the first final, we had about 4 or 5 injuries. In that year, I blew out my calf in the first final.
Oh, gee, they are big
never
calves to blow out too.
Never did a soft tissue injury in my whole career. And blew it out. And, we ended up going down. Wangaratta, Michael Newton, he kicked 8 that day and absolutely dominated. We lost that one. So had to come back. I couldn't finish on that note. And we went undefeated again in 2018. Which was even better, because I think 16 we were sort of, probably expected to win. We had a really good side. We had about 6 or 7 ex-AFL players in the team. And then, so 18. And then halfway through 2019, during that pre-season, I decided that I wanted to do an Ironman. Stupidly enough, and you know what my feet and ankles were like. They were like paper mache. Just
Bont, just to give you Crossy went in to get an ankle operation one year, and they opened him up. There was nothing there, so it was like like a puppet's, the ventriloquist doll with where the feet just sort of hang. Well, he was trying to play with these ankles that just had nothing hanging on them.
Yeah, so I had both of those ankles reconstructed 2 weeks apart at the end of 2009.
Wow.
But so my feet and ankles didn't agree with all the road running. And I ended up forming some bone stress in my foot. So that I had to can that idea. I think I will still eventually have another crack at it. But the boys up in Albury, they heard word of that and wanted to get me back for the last half year. They were going well. I think we were sitting second and played the last half of that year and we finished. We went out in straight sets. So I tore my plantar fascia and it was just a stupid idea. I shouldn't have come back, but I had planned on playing again this season just gone, but obviously that got canned and stupidly enough, I'm hoping to play again next year, but I can't shake the bug, fellas. It's something that I just love playing, love competing, and I still love getting out and running around and getting in the gym. So it's just a habit. I'm a creature of habit.
I reckon someone else who's pretty similar and talking about the games before and, the hub life and how the shorter turnaround suits some people and not others. I think it also would have suited someone like Matty Boyd, who you were very close with over time. And Bob, you talked about legendary stories before. There's a lot that sort of tie you two together. So I want to know a bit more about the start, how you both sort of arrived at the club or how that sort of relationship started. And then, Bob, you can ask, I wasn't there, but you were there on the day of that running test that I wouldn't mind knowing a bit of a closer perspective on. But how did the relationship start with you and Boydie?
Yeah, I remember when Keith first came down, he had the big long mullet flowing in the wind down at Whitten Oval. I remember actually playing against him. He was at the Dandenong Stingrays and I was at the Bush Rangers. So I actually remember playing against him. Didn't like him at that stage.
Right. How all great friendships start.
That's right. We formed a real close bond straight away. We're sort of, both in the similar positions that we played on the field. We both had a lot of areas to work on when we were younger. We'd just drive each other so hard. Even from those first couple of years, we were just always out training together, doing extra work together with, whether it be Leon Cameron or Chris Bond, a couple of our old midfield coaches, and our wives, my wife Sam and her wife, his wife Kate, formed a really special bond as well, and they're best mates. It's we spent a lot of time going down to Werribee, driving down to Werribee, who was our VFL team at the time. And it just sort of grew and grew from there. Did a couple of manpowers together.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh boy.
Some great memories for you there, Bob. But
it was a different time.
It was
a different time.
What was that? What's that? What's a manpower?
It was a bit of a fundraiser where the players would get up on stage and
right, fundraiser.
Dance. Players would dance.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Crossy, that is that right? That fitness test we used to do was the under the great Billy Davern.
Billy Davern, yeah.
The HIR test. So it was like a repeat high intensity running. So was it were they 100 meters, 90 meter strides?
100 meter strides, and you had to get them in 20 seconds.
Yeah,
and
you had to get
the recovery came down every 5 reps.
Yeah.
So it started at 30 seconds. So you do it in 20, you'd start your next one on a 50-second cycle. And then after 5, it'd come down to 45, then 40, 35, so on down to 25. And it just stopped at 25. So, once you got to 25, you just kept going until you couldn't go anymore. Yeah, so.
I just remember one day at the Whitten Oval when it was glorious summer day, and the rest of us had dropped off at some point with our lungs had exploded, our hearts, legs had exploded. Yeah. No, I think I did pretty well that day, better than expected. But it came down to you and Boydie, and you both as fit as I've ever seen any sort of league footballer, and you both just kept going bang. It was like this sort of meditation, and eventually, instead of the fitness test ending, they just sort of the tape just sort of ran out, and we just stopped it. It was like, okay,
Billy said
probably enough.
Yeah, Bill said, I think we got to 50 reps or something like that, and Bill said, "That's enough. That's enough." I know exactly the day that you're talking about, and I just remember we were like staring each other off the whole time.
Yeah,
it was
what was it like? Were you just next to each other, just basically next to each other running?
Yeah, and I 100% wanted to beat him, and he 10% wanted to beat me. And that's what we were talking about before, Bont, is we had this incredible drive to get better. But we wanted to outdo each other as well at times, and try and get one up on each other. And that's what, drove us to keep getting better and keep pushing ourselves. So, he definitely wasn't going to give in, and neither was I. So I'm glad that Billy called it in the end, because my lungs were about to explode as well. So,
the rest of us were kind of half in awe and half sort of terrified at at just the intensity of these two very good mates just going toe to toe. It was quite a spectacular event, I've got to say. Crossy, last one from me. I could stay and chat all day to you. We'll end up running out of time.
Yep.
But so that was probably the high point of your fitness testing running. But I want to talk about another day when we were at Princes Park, and I mean, you were a glorious runner. I assume you still are, not just in the times you ran, but just technique, everything. And this would have been 2011, I think. And we took off for the big time trial around Princes Park, and bang, we were out at pace. Everyone was having a red hot crack at this one. And about 50 metres in, the wild card entry into the event was Ed Barlow, Cheesy Barlow. And Ed's had a shoelace blowout, and he stopped to do his shoelace. And as we ran past it, everyone's giving him a mouthful about his shoelace, and how it's cost him this, the title as the best runner at the club. Can you pick up the story from there and tell us what happened? It's quite a yarn.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Bandy was going back, like when he was at the club, he was one of the really good ones at time trials, and me and him used to come in together. But up until then, like I hadn't really been beaten at Princes Park, and Cheese was very good. Very good runner for his size, particularly as well. He was reasonably tall, but he was solidly built. I didn't even realise at the start, because that was my plan, to just go out as hard as I could and just hold on for as long as So I'd got out to the front, so I didn't even know that he'd stopped. But as it happened. I came in. I was actually 1 second off my personal best. Yeah. And Cheese beat me. He beat me by a second.
Oh wow!
So he equaled my best time. And I was so flat when I found out the story. He'd actually stopped. He'd stopped, and he still beat me. So I was filthy on myself. Couldn't believe it. I hadn't been beaten for all these years, and then I get this bloke come in, and he's got time to do up a freaking shoelace, and still knock me off. So it still haunts me to this.
Yeah, I didn't. I almost didn't want to bring it up, but it's just you got to be balanced in these things. You know,
that's right. Take the good with the bad.
That's it. You got to take it, mate. Mate, I wish we could, like I say, I wish we could keep chatting. It's great to go down memory lane. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I know all the Bulldog supporters out there will love seeing your face and hearing from you, because you're much loved. I've loved catching up with you. There's no playing my footy with more. An incredible teammate. It's a great athlete, as we talked about, but skillful and incredibly brave as well. So a lot of love for Crossy in the locker room now and forever, Bont. So, mate, thanks so much. Absolutely. Good luck with the grade prep and the grade 5. Good luck with getting back out there for the Albury Tigers and bringing home another flag. And we'll catch you on the other side of this isolation. Catch up for a beer one of these days.
Absolutely, mate. Maybe a whiskey, like old time.
Maybe a little. Yeah, now we're talking.
Thanks for having me, guys. Obviously, good luck for the weekend, Bont, and for the last couple of games. But always great to chat to you, Bob. Look forward to catching up again when we're all out of lockdown, mate.
Yeah, to the greatest number 4 that ever was at the Western Bulldogs. Daniel Cross.